Some women think they are smarter than everyone else, or that people are dumb. So when they think about issues regarding relationships and all that stuff, they only go to a point that satisfies what they want. They never think past this point. This is why they never think about it from a man's perspective. This squirrel is smarter than all the women that I will show you in this video.
The squirrel broke all acting records. The clever squirrel dropped the mop and wanted to make a quick to escape. But hearing the owner's voice, the squirrel decided to play it safe and pretended it was an accident. She did a nimble somersault under the mop and struck the most dramatic pose possible. Now it was just a matter of waiting for the landlady.
I do actually agree with what y'all are saying, but here's the thing. For most women, they don't realize it's to impress men because it's such a part of their programming, society, oftentimes even the way they're raised in their home with their mothers. You guys are so logical in the way that you break down your arguments. Most people have never done that for them. And so they don't even know. They have no idea because it comes back to cultural conditioning and how they were raised in their home and the way society is.
There's this term in video games called carrying. When you carry someone in a video game, you basically, they suck at the video game, you have to do all the work, and you bring them to the win. That's how men feel, most men feel, when it comes to courtship with women. We have to do everything. Ask you out, pay for the date, set up the date, plan the date, and then, go for the first kiss, move things forward, handle everything. So women have the privilege of not really acknowledging or knowing all the work that goes into actually going from matching with you on a dating app or meeting you all the way to sex and then moving forward from that. Men are typically expected to court women, approach women, ask them out on dates, maybe pick them up, pay for dates, make the first move, etc. What are women expected to do to build a relationship? So I'm talking about that initial stage. What are women expected to do?
Wait, so are we saying that like he takes you out on a date?
No, he's like, so like when you're like, let's say like the first date, like usually on a first date, like a guy picks you up, like he takes you there and he's like expected to pay, but like what are like you expected to do, kind of like in these like dating like scenarios?
Just be yourself.
Conversation.
Be yourself. Like are you expected to impress him?
Why the should I care how much money you make?
I can pay for myself so that you won't pay for me.
But I'm saying though, why should I care about how much money you make if you're not going to pay my bills?
Yeah. He's saying what he's going to care about. You're going to care about that. But a man is not going to care about that because it's already set in stone in the culture and the biologically that he's going to be the one by default in the relationship paying the bills. But so why would you have to worry if he's going to be doing it?
If we have kids in the future, like if I make more money, like which means that your pressure will be less.
You won't make. But are you gonna actually be with a guy that you make more money?
You just said you wouldn't. Yeah. You just chose the guy that's not a busser. You just chose the financially stable guy.
Got it!
Like an example with marriage. There is so much pressure, especially for women, to get married and have children by a certain age.
Yeah, that's because if they don't do that, they can't have children.
I mean, that's debatable.
No, it's not debatable.
42.
No, it's not. No, listen. The amount of damage that can happen to you and the child just over the age of 24 drastically increases every single year. Every single year that you hold out. By the time you're 40, if you're trying to have kids, how many kids do you think you're going to have versus a 25-year-old?
Generally speaking, yes, but a lot of it depends on your lifestyle because we all age differently.
Oh, no. Well, wait a second. We all age at exactly the same rate as everybody else.
I disagree.
Really? So if I'm 1 year old and you're 1 year old, how old are both of us?
Depends how you perceive time.
Depends.
I've never met a single person who cared, I guess. I've never met a single man who's cared about it. None of my exes cared. The people that I've tried dating before or gone on dates before, none of them cared. They all supported it. They had no issues with it whatsoever. They said, if it empowers you and if you're making money and you're supporting your family, which I do with my money. I have very struggling parents, so I support my parents with my money.
And very upfront about that.
Can I ask you a question?
Very upfront, too.
Has a guy ever lied to you to get laid? Or do you think men have ever lied to you to get laid?
In what way? Because I don't let just anyone.
I mean, I'm a guy and I know men frequently will lie to get laid, so. They'll gas you up. No, babe, it doesn't matter.
No, I really strongly don't think so.
What do you bring to the table?
I'm not going to answer this question. This is just something that I wouldn't answer in a date. I'm not going to answer here.
Fine.
I'm not going to answer how many books I've read.
Okay, what do you expect men to bring to the table?
Integrity, clarity, consistency, strong connection to divinity, not necessarily religion, but some kind of purpose-based lifestyle.
So what is the female equivalent of that?
The same.
Then why wouldn't you just say that at the table when he asks you?
What's your favorite car?
Mercedes.
Okay. What class?
The SUVs.
Let's say you went to go get an M class and the sticker price is $150,000 and you want it fully loaded out, whatever, and you're like, cool. And you show up, you're like, yeah, I'm going to buy this thing, etc. But you find out that it's a year 2010 versus a 2023. Would you buy it when they're selling the 2023 for the same price?
Of course not.
Exactly. That's how men feel about women. Why am I going to pay full price for you and go do all this work to get laid when I can get a younger girl that I can get laid with?
Go for it.
With less mileage.
That's my point. With less years. Like women, I don't think girls understand that your value is perishable. As women age, they lose value to men.
My boyfriend of 1 year found out that I had been texting my ex regularly during our relationship. I want to fix our relationship, but he's so upset at me. My ex and I were texting almost every day, but the reason I was texting him was out of familiarity and habit.
I like how she's like, let me justify. The reason why I was talking to my ex-boyfriend was because
familiarity and habit.
Familiarity. Okay.
That's some bullshit.
Dating someone, but you're like, you know what? This is okay. What I'm doing is okay, and like, eventually I'll stop.
You were also for familiarity. Like, are you going to continue saying his too?
Oh no, what an idiot.
What can you, an individual, do about an industry that's dying? Excuse me?
Positive in your own.
Stay positive. There were people who sold horses and buggies. But when the automobile came along, you could have made the best horse and buggy and the best horsewhip. You could be as positive as you want. When the market died, you were out of business.
Or you just downsized.
There's downsize for no dimension. You can't downsize. How can you downsize if you were a small? That person had a 9-to-5 job. How could she downsize? Being 1 year in business. And see, what I'm showing you guys is this is a 20-some-odd-year-old woman who is too stubborn sign language to admit that she don't know what the hell she's talking about. This woman is young enough to be my daughter. She ain't completed nothing in life. She didn't even complete college. And that's the point. And this is the problem. And you wonder why women who look like you, who think like you, and who act like you are chronically single.
How much money is in your guys' bank account?
I got like 1,200.
Like 70K? Yeah.
70K? What you mean 70K?
What do you mean? My dad gave it to me.
You made me pay for all this shit and you got 70K?
You're my boyfriend. Why wouldn't you pay for my things?
Well, I mean, if you got 70K, I mean, you should be paying for this
Yeah, but
shit.
usually the guy's supposed to pay for the things.
This is a serious problem. Like, I'm not even kidding. I paid for
What
dinner.
are you getting mad at me for?
That was $400.
You're supposed to pay for my shit.
But you got 70K?
You're my boyfriend. You're supposed to pay for my shit.
Kidding me? Yo, dude, this is actually...
It's not my fault you're broke. How is that my fault?
We're done then.
What do you mean we're done?
We're done then.
If you're gonna fucking scream at me, then leave.
This is another part of Park Forest. It is about 3 blocks from where I grew up. The summer before my freshman year in college, I dated a girl named Pam. Pam's mother was black and her father was Japanese. Both died when Pam was a little girl. So Pam and her sister was raised in a foster home. That summer I asked Pam for a commitment and she said no. However, we did and acted like we were boyfriend and girlfriend. She got all the benefits, but without the commitment. Pam went to a university that was over 600 miles away. I called her once a week and wrote her, and she never called me back. In fact, sometimes when I called, she was avoiding me. I knew she was avoiding me. Pam told me she could not call me back because she didn't have the money, and that she didn't even have the money to buy a 13-cent stamp. Back in the 80s, a postage stamp only cost 13 cents. So I sent her a self-addressed envelope with a 13-cent stamp on it. Yes, I know I am emphasizing the 13 cents because it is very important to the story. 8 months later, 1 week before summer break, I got the self-addressed envelope back from Pam. That summer, however, Pam wanted a commitment, but I didn't want a commitment because I did not trust her. Years later, in the future, after all of this, I figured out that Pam's plan was to stay free and single for her freshman year so that she could have a good time with other people. And if she did not find anyone, then get back together with me, Todd. Well, that did not work out like she thought. Now I'm going to skip ahead 9 years. I ran back into Pam 9 years later at a local community college. I was there using their laser printer to print out my resume. Back then, you mailed resumes and cover letters. Pam did not graduate undergrad because she was partying way too much in college. Pam told me that during her third year in college, the police were not going to allow her to drive home because they believed that she was drunk. I then asked her where did she get the money to buy the car. She then replied with, her father left her $10,000. I thought to myself, but I did not say this out loud. So you're telling me that you had $10,000 in the bank, in cash, your freshman year of college, when you were telling me at the same time that you could not afford to call me or could not afford to buy a 13-cent stamp. After this and other things she let slip, I was completely done with her. I was so done that I did not even want to have sex with her, and she offered more than a few times. From 1992 to 2020, every time I ran into Pam, she always let me know she wanted to get back together, and every time I just ignored it. Her attitude then was always, okay, I can always get someone else. Remember, Pam's father was Japanese and her mother was black, so she was beautiful. When I ran back into Pam in 2020, when we were both around 56 years old, this time she was not going to let me ignore it or say no. 90% of men are not interested in a 56-year-old woman, especially a woman who is collecting disability because of anxiety and depression. Like I said in my last video, women that participated in the free sex movement of the 1960s and the sexual revolution of the 1970s paid a price when they turned 40. And Pam did a lot of partying in her 20s. So I wrote her a letter saying that why I did not want to get back together with her, and that it all had to do with how she treated me when we were both in our 20s, and that I checked out way back in 1992. However, if it did work out between me and Pam, sometimes I think that with our current combined incomes, we can move to Thailand or the Philippines and have a really good life. Pam might be collecting disability, but only pays enough to pay her rent, and she still has to get a part-time job to pay for electricity, water, and gasoline for a car. Since Pam is half Japanese and has her father's last name, we could have immigrated to tropical Okinawa, Japan. There are a lot of different costs women pay in the future for having a good time when they were young, and they always think that the costs are not going to apply to them. It's because they think that they are smarter than everyone else. After receiving my letter, Pam got pissed off and left me a series of angry voicemail messages. This was the last time I heard from Pam. Some women think that they are smart, but in reality, they are dumb as hell and stupid as shit. Eventually, we will figure it out. And if we do not figure it out, eventually we are going to leave because no one likes to be treated like shit. Women that does this always say that your past should not matter. When we men are being reliable, responsible, faithful, loyal, and busting our ass, you women are out there having a good time. So yes, we men are going to have resentment towards women that had a good time during the times when we men were doing what we were supposed to do, paying the cost to have a good future. When the partying is over for all these types of women, when they finally hit the wall, instead of paying the price or the cost like all the rest of us, they want to show up and enjoy all the benefits we have built. Pam does not have any children, but this is one of the reasons why men avoid dating single mothers.